2015 NFL Combine has become a spectacle of the American media. We watch it now all the time, whereas 10 or fewer media members used to go and watch it 10, 15 years ago. Now there's hundreds and hundreds crowding the hallways just to get a taste of what some of the future NFL players are going to be like. Throwing to a video from Taylor Jones, a good friend of ours on TYT Sports. You might remember him from the TYT Sports NFL recaps. Taylor, what do you have to say about the NFL Combine?
Now, the reason we do the scouting combine is to bring all these prospects to a centralized location. We get all 32 clubs to interview them, sit down with them, get to know them as a person, as a man, and then we also do the medical checks, pick, poke, and prod at these guys to understand if there are injury concerns moving forward if we are to draft them. But that's not fun to talk about. We like to talk about the underwear Olympics that take place on the field, most notably the 40-yard dash. We had one guy that went sub 4.3. Didn't quite test Chris Johnson's 4.24 40-yard record time at the NFL Combine, but went 4.28. This kid's J.J. Nelson from UAB, a wide receiver, but he weighs 156 pounds. I weighed 152 pounds in 7th grade playing Pop Warner football at linebacker. I was a linebacker, 7th grade, 4 pounds lighter than this guy that's trying to be an NFL wide receiver. That seems crazy to me. On the flip side of that, we had the slowest times. An Oklahoma offensive lineman ran a 5.74. But most interestingly, Danny Shelton, he is a top-notch elite prospect, a defensive tackle from Washington. He ran a 5.64, but he looked phenomenal on the field. So that tells you that the 40-yard time doesn't necessarily tell the whole picture. Then we went into the jumping phases of these events, the vertical, the broad jump. There were some astounding numbers that took place here. We had Chris Conley, a wide receiver from Georgia. He set the record, the NFL Combine record, for 45 inches. And then Byron Jones, a defensive back from UConn, just a half inch shorter than that at 44.5. You guys, anything over 40 is flat out explosive. These guys wake up jumping out of the gym. Now, Byron Jones, his day wasn't over. He turned around and did a broad jump that was 12 foot 3 inches. To put that into perspective, the Olympic record, 12 foot 2 inches. This guy went an inch further than the Olympic world record in the broad jump. To further paint a better picture of what that means, the front of the rim on a basketball court to the free throw line, 160 inches away. This guy did 143 inches flat-footed. That means he could almost jump from the free throw line to the front of the rim off of a flat, base-footed jump. That's crazy to me. Then we had a guy put up 37 reps of 225 pounds in the bench press. That's impressive. I'm not going to say that's not impressive, but we had Stephen Paya a couple years ago put up 49, just to give you an idea. On the flip side of that, 2 guys put up 7 reps. Probably better than I could do right now, but 7 reps. Let's try to get into the double digits, folks.
Well, that's great because I can put up 0 reps of 225 pounds.
I've never felt worse about myself physically than I do right now. That's unbelievable.
So guys, welcome to the Rundown, by the way. We're joined by Tracy Sandler, Justin Moser, and David Katz. I'm Jason Rubin, and we're going to discuss how the NFL Combine has become one of the most watched and noted off-season. It's as big as the draft nowadays, whereas almost 10, 15 years ago, it wasn't anything. Nobody went to see this. You'd read the report card later on in the day, and that was it. So our first question, Tracy, we'd love to hear from you. Overall, which one of these tests do you find the most impressive when it comes to these physical attributes?
The most impressive, I think, is the vertical jump. I don't know how good a football player it indicates you're going to be, but it is very impressive to me that a man can jump 45 inches into the air. It's incredible.
Right, it's truly fascinating. And the broad jump, some guy going Space Jam, Michael Jordan, from the free throw line to the rim, he set the Olympic world record. If it wasn't the Olympics, obviously, with that pressure, but still.
Maybe he should consider the Olympics as a sport instead of football.
Right. I'm surprised how, if he's a United States athlete.
He's got a whole other career ahead of him.
He could. You never know. So let's move on. Justin.
The Raiders will probably draft him. Don't they draft everyone who's in the Olympics?
Do they? Is this like a...
all the speedsters and everything. So if you basically say you're going to go to the Olympics, the Raiders will draft you. That should be his strategy.
Well, then I'm going to go to the Olympics.
There you go.
I'm going to play for the Oakland, potentially LA Raiders. Do we know? We don't.
That sounds like another segment.
It could be. That's, of course. And Justin, let's move on. So, in general, what test did you find the most impressive? A bench press, was it broad jump? Where do you lie?
Every year I'm always looking for somebody to run a 4.2 in the 40-yard dash. I love fast guys. It's one of my favorite skills you can have in the NFL, and it seems like there's always 1 or 2 guys, and they're always going to be a breakout player in the NFL. So that's like kind of the one I really pay attention to is a 40-yard dash.
I mean, for sure. And we know Chris Johnson a few years back did a 4.24 or 4.28 was the speed. And the guy this year with 156 pounds, I'm like 160 pounds, and I don't run a 4.3. That's why I don't play in the NFL. There's a few reasons as to why. That's just going to be one of the main ones. And then, David, I'm curious from your point of view here, is the combine an accurate test of what an athlete will become in the NFL, or is it simply just a physical spectacle?
I think it's a physical spectacle. It shows you kind of just core strength and things like that, which I know are important in the NFL, but can you answer this question for me? If you're a football player, and especially on the offensive side, a lot of these guys, why aren't they doing these drills with a football in their hands? I can tell you, having played college basketball, that if you asked me to do a straight sprint down the court, I could do a straight sprint. You asked me to do a sprint with the ball, dribbling the ball, not only is it a very different speed, but there are people who may be slower than me at a sprint who are faster than me with the ball in their hands. So I don't understand why these drills aren't being done with a football in their hands. Do the 40 with a football, do some of these cone drills with a football, so you're testing agility with a more real-world, real-game experience. So that, to me, is what's missing from this whole thing, because I think, and for the big guys who aren't going to play with a football in their hand, put pads on them. Because some of these guys may play very differently with pads on.
Yeah, of course. I mean, again, there are no pads. Obviously, the speed changes. Now, the one thing that's got to be mentioned now, Lionel Messi, famous soccer player, for those who don't know, Argentina was playing in the World Cup. One of his ex-coaches came out and said that he is the only player in the world, and this might be just related to soccer, but he was faster with a ball than without one, which is just so unbelievably impressive. So in terms of these physical attributes, I mean, these NFL athletes are just, it's unbelievable what you see and what they can do. In terms of how it translates to the NFL, Tom Brady had one of the worst combines in combine history. He turned out okay. A few Super Bowls later, and he's now considered one of the greatest of all time in the NFL. So when it comes to the accuracy of these tests, who knows? But in terms of watching them, do you guys find enjoyment from watching these? Do you think that moving forward, the NFL Combine is going to get bigger and bigger, or is this just a fad of the last few years?
You know, one thing I'll say about Tom Brady, though, is although his NFL career is incredible, it did probably impact his draft position, and that really did show. As far as, you know, if I'm interested in the Combine, I actually don't watch it. I like to pay attention to if people jumped really high. 45 inches is unbelievable. That guy should probably play basketball or volleyball. Or I mean, if he has hands, he should be an NFL player, but that's just amazing to me. I don't really watch the Combine. I don't think it really has that much to say about the way you'd perform in the NFL.
Very interesting.
Let's think about how ridiculous this is. We're watching hundreds of players no one's ever heard of before doing skills that they really don't know what they really should be measured by. And, oh, he ran a 4.93. We were expecting him in the 4.8, low 4.8.
So now his draft stock drops 10, 15 positions.
Of that. We as fans have absolutely no idea, and we rely on a handful of people to tell us what they think it is. And even though I love Mel Kiper, Baltimore's own Mel Kiper, huge fan, he is a character. He is a character in this play that is the NFL, and he is a fantastic character. You couldn't draw up a character like that. And does he have knowledge? Yes, but he is there also to entertain, and does a great job of that. So let's call it what it is. This is entertainment, and at the end of the day, when they give you an analysis of a score of A through F based on how the draft works, I guess the Seahawks got a horribly low score a few years ago, and that worked out pretty well for them now. So do we really know anything from this? Not really.
No.
But I think what's interesting, a couple of things that are interesting for the teams, sometimes the Combine gives them an opportunity to look at a player in the drills and say, I'm going to go back and look at that guy's film again. That might be worth a second look. And I think for the teams, that's a very important thing. I also think this year, what's really important is the teams brought psychologists there to talk to players who have off-the-field issues to help them not make maybe the mistakes the Cleveland Browns have made and many other teams have made. And I think that's a real interesting component of the Combine that's going to be bigger and bigger as years go on.
I think you bring up a great point. I mean, to me, the one part that is not televised are the interviews. The interviews are by far, in my opinion, the most important and most interesting part of this. We interviewed Benjamin Watson of the Patriots and of the Browns about his whole status when he went through the process, and he was asked crazy questions. To me, the world's best reality show not being televised would be the interviews during the Combine process. And from an intellectual and psychological standpoint, the testing they do there is probably the most important to see how these people do, because half of being an NFL player, unless you're Marshawn Lynch, is dealing with the media, dealing with public pressures, and really being something more than just what happens in the locker room. You're a public figure when you're in the NFL.
Right, I couldn't agree more, and we're going to see a lot of that play out with Jameis Winston and Marcus Mariota, because they are two very contrasting personality types, but both have all the tangibles to become a good NFL quarterback, potentially great NFL quarterback. Their combines are interesting. Guys, thanks so much for watching. You can check out the postgame on YouTube at youtube.com/thepostgame. Don't forget to subscribe to TYT Sports. And from Tracy, Justin, David, and Jason, we will see you next time.